Today we have a great panel of academic institutions that are actively involved in SBIR, STTR research. And so we have 5 representatives, starting with, I'll go Dr. Jeremy Qualls, Provost at Thomas College and Executive Director of the Maine Space Grant Consortium and Maine NASA EPSCoR. A 17-word title. Congratulations. Michaela Monahan, Director of Research Partnerships at the Roux Institute. Dr. Lisa Herschbach, University of New England's Director of Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Jonathan Godbout, Deputy Director of Colby College's Halloran Lab for Entrepreneurship. And Janet Yancey Rona, Technology Business Development Manager for the University of Maine's Office of Strategic Partnerships, Innovation, Resources, and Engagement, which is also a 17-word, there we go. So what are we? My God, it's not that.
Wait, Mike's back.
Microphones are back.
I think we're all old enough to remember,
Take it home. All right, no more projecting. Apologies for that. I'm going to go down the line and ask a question of each of our panelists. We'll try and move briefly because we aren't long on time. I will start with Dr. Jeremy Qualls. You run the pipeline that brings NASA money into Maine. In plain terms, what do you see what does the Space Grant and NASA EPSCoR fund, and what is it, and how does a for-profit company in this room get involved, whether as a co-investigator with a university or through the Maine Spaceport Complex?
Sure. Thank you.
Try that again. I turned this off.
Test.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave this off.
All right.
You're good.
Thanks for having me. So I represent a lot of the funding of NASA that comes into the state. I do this to the Maine Space Grant Consortium. It's a 501c3. It's different than the Maine Space Corporation. We're different entities. We work well together. If you're looking for that, John Carp does the Maine Space Corporation. And then what I primarily do is help assist NASA put money into the state. And so there's a couple areas that we do that. I do it to the Space Grant Program, which works on workforce development and research infrastructure development along NASA missions. So we have seed grants between $5,000 and $50,000 that goes out. It could be used for, if you want a student employee, if you want, just talk to me, what you've got in mind. And the more aligned you are with NASA's priority, the easier it is for me to distribute that money. And then I also work with the NASA EPSCoR, and that's $750K, and those are pretty nice to get. The last one went to the Roux Institute, and that program is every year, and it's a competitive process, but it's still, I think our yield rate is closer to 50% for those proposals. So that's a lot better than 15% or 20%. You'll see some other ones. So I work closely with identifying NASA contacts. So if anyone is looking at starting up a business or is looking for funding, if it's aligned with any of the NASA priorities, missions, or workforce development, reach out to me. I can see if I can help you find a contact at NASA. If there's any funding, NASA does SBIR as well, although it's a little bit different than NSF style of doing it. I can help with that. And then one of the things we have is a nice network of affiliates that include industry, startup, and ties them back with universities. So I work closely with other universities. And we support most of the universities in Maine, one way or another. And so reach out to me if you're looking, and then I'll check and say, all right, let's talk about, do you align with NASA? Because that'll be the first step. And then once you align with NASA, then I'll say, okay, here are your funding opportunities. Here's the ones that I control, and here are the ones that NASA you would have to apply to look for a regular grant.
Great, thank you. Janet, UMaine is the state's research flagship with federally funded powerhouses like the Advanced Structures and Composite Center. Your job is turning that research into commercial partnerships. For a company in this room, what are the concrete ways to work with UMaine, whether licensing IP, using federally funded facilities, or bringing UMaine on as a research partner on an SBI or SDTR?
So those are all things. The way that you can work with UMaine, so that's the answer. But the advantage of, one of the advantages of working with UMaine is that the people who are employed in those federally funded labs, like the ASCC, also the Advanced Manufacturing Center, the Process Development Center, a lot of engineering, a lot of advanced materials, a lot of prototype development, all kinds of things. They're staffed by staff who are not faculty and students. And so they're not distracted by having to teach. We do bring students into the projects, we want to do that kind of education. But engaging directly, their jobs are working with industry and doing industry projects. ASCC also does a lot of federally funded projects, but you're dealing with people who understand industry timelines, are used to working with industry, not distracted by sort of typical academic things. You're working with a professor in the Department of Chemistry, certainly can do that, but that's going to be a more traditional relationship with the university. All of these would be governed by research collaborations. If you want to come in and pay the university to work with you to do development, to do research, those are research collaborations. We have intellectual property. It is my job to find license partners for those. We negotiate those licenses with you. If you may not want to do a license, you might need to do development first. So maybe we start with a research collaboration, move to a license. There's also workforce training at the Advanced Manufacturing Center called Bot Block for automation and robotics and things like that. So there's a lot of ways for companies to directly engage with the University of Maine and take advantage of these facilities that really are quite amazing. And you can start with our office, which is way too many words, and it's called Spire, SPIRE, and I can give you my card. If you start with me, I can direct you to the right person. But dealing with anyone external to the university and not federal government funding, all of these contracts originate and are organized and managed by people that are part of Spire and my team, not my team, but we're all part of the same team. Carol Boucher is here as part of the team that does the entrepreneurship development. That's also a way to engage with the university for customer validation work, the EPSCoR program, which is now becoming a requirement in some of the SBIR programs. You can work directly through the university to engage in those programs. You don't have to be part of the university at all to do that. It can be anyone from the community. We're here to serve Maine. We take our mission as Maine State, as Maine's university very seriously, and we have an obligation to support industry and entrepreneurship in our state.
Thank you. Michaela, Roux research teams have brought in more than $20 million in mostly federal and private grants in 4 years, and Roux helped land Maine as a federal tech hub designation. If a company in this room, not a university, how do I partner with Roux to tap that research muscle in AI, engineering, and human data and become part of a federally funded work?
Yeah, great. So I would echo a lot of this similar kind of pathways that Northeastern, so the Roux Institute is part of Northeastern University, which is a large university, R1 university. We're based out of Boston, but the Roux Institute is in Portland and was started as a graduate campus of one of actually 14 campuses that Northeastern University has around the world. And so I would say that we do a lot of the same things, kind of traditional things that universities will do. You can get in touch with me and I can try to hook you up with a teaching professor that wants to use your project as a part of his class, and it's sort of a mutually beneficial. We get to sort of use your real-world business problem as a way to teach students, and you get to maybe get some work done via our students for free. That would be one way of engaging. All the way up to things like large research collaborations with our research faculty, both in Maine as well as I think what I'm kind of mandated to do increasingly in my role is to bring faculty that aren't in Maine yet into projects that are happening in Maine. So we have connections into the broader university. So if you need an expert in like one particular area, we oftentimes can go try to find that expert and create connections. And that can be very exciting. I guess that the one other thing I'll say is that a key kind of focus area for us is artificial intelligence, and we have the AI Solutions Hub, which is a part of an AI Research Institute of Northeastern that's actually located out of Portland, Maine. And so that's another way that companies are often working with us is when it's something like creating an applied AI solution for your business or to get kind of your product to the next level. We're a good resource for that. So
Great,
yeah.
thank you. Dr. Herschbach, the University of New England is Maine's largest private university and a serious health and marine science research engine. Your CIE turns that research into student energy into ventures. For this audience, how does UNE's ecosystem, including the Merrill Makerspace, the Sustainable Innovation Center, and the Shaw Innovation Fellowship, Fellows, and your Entrepreneur in Residence, help translate federally funded research into companies and products?
Thank you. That was a very comprehensive question. And I think my response will echo some of the comments by others on the panel. This is very echoey. Sorry to hold it back here. I might start by just giving you a little bit of more background about UNE. In case you don't know, we have two campuses in Maine, one in Bedford, right on the coast, and one in Portland, a historic area of Dirigo. The Portland campus now is the home of our College of Medicine. UNE, one of its distinctive areas of work or strengths is in life and health sciences. We have the only College of Medicine in the state of Maine, as well as the only dental training or school college in New England, as well as multiple additional programs for training other healthcare workers, public health, social work, PAs, nursing, psych techs, you name it. UNE does it. We actually produced 2/3 of we educate and train 2/3 of the healthcare workforce in the state of Maine. So that is kind of our distinctive contribution as an educational institution. We also have a marine sciences program that's ranked in the top 10 nationally. It certainly helps that we're on the beautiful coast of Bedford Pool near Camp Ellis, and we have Research Island less than a mile from our campus. We've also just started 2 years ago, we founded a College of Business, which has distinctive strengths in marine entrepreneurship, outdoor education and innovation, and sports management. So I just mentioned those, give you a sense of some of our areas of strength. I will say, when it comes to this audience and these particular grant opportunities that we've been talking about today, the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship is part of a larger body, the Office of Research and Innovation at UNE, which includes our Office of Sponsored Programs. That office works frequently with small business owners and entrepreneurs who are interested in unlocking SDTR funding or who we act as kind of a service provider for small companies who need research done in the areas where we have strengths where you need to backfill, you don't have the capacity to hire another person to do that, or you just don't have the skill set internally. UNE offers 4 core research areas where we essentially on a sort of fee-for-service model can do whatever you might need in order to prepare or move through typically your phase 1 part of the STTR grant process. So in terms of your question about the other elements of the ecosystem of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, we our center offers a robust entrepreneur in residence program, and one of my colleagues is here today, Scott Wood, right there. So our particular areas of strength are in the health and life science biotech areas. So Scott's strengths are in experience and his own entrepreneurial experiences in the biotech pharma space. We have the Portland Biotech Laboratory, where a lot of innovative research is happening, and also we have a kind of concentration of faculty who are interested in commercial applications of the research that they're doing. We also we have multiple maker spaces across campus where both students and faculty learn principles of design thinking, systems thinking, project management, grant applications. They can prototype. One of them in particular, our Sustainable Innovation Center, is just about a year old now and focuses specifically on, sorry if I'm making you deaf with this, on data visualization, coastal resilience research, the use of AI and building out dashboards and so on to integrate and magnify the kind of impact in of our various research programs around coastal resilience, wave action, doing a big study on the new spur jetty that you've probably heard about off of Camp Ellis that the Army Corps of Engineers is convinced is going to keep Camp Ellis from washing away. We're going to try and figure out if that's true before that actually happens. That just gives you, I guess, some sense of what our areas of strength are. We are open for business. Like we do, as I mentioned, currently have several SCTR projects that we're working on where we brought together faculty and founders and students to build capacity, advance the speed at which they're able to bring their research and their ideas to market. But we have more capacity, so we would love to, we invite those of you in the room who might be working in related spaces to come talk to me for now, and I'll refer you out to whomever might be the best person to talk to. I guess the last thing I would just say is we take very seriously as an institution our role in kind of creating a talent pipeline. So that's what our Student Innovation Fellows programs and our internship programs are focused on. We have extremely motivated, trained students who have had exposure to this work. They've worked closely with founders and so on, and we kind of along the model of the Innovate for Maine program. We pay for these students to work with companies during the entire academic year. So again, can build out some capacity. Hopefully, we see this as a great learning opportunity for students, which in turn benefits startups and founders and others. That's kind of I guess, a very long
It's perfect.
nutshell of what we do at UNE, but definitely delighted to be here in the company of all of you innovators, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me if anything that I said resonated, or if you want to learn more about the possibilities for collaborating with us.
Thank you. And Jonathan, if you might have detected a pattern here, you might see where I'm going. The Halloran Lab is built on the idea that every Colby student can be an entrepreneur. For the founders and federally funded startups in this room, what's the opportunity to tap Colby's talent and ventures programs, and how does the lab connect students to real Maine companies?
How's that sound? Am I echoing? No.
So far, so good.
It's worse? Is this one worse? That one's worse? Okay. One, thank you for inviting me here today and to be on this panel. It's very much an honor. Halloran Lab, being part of Colby College, we're solely a liberal arts college. We are not an urban institution. So what that means a lot of times with federally funded programs from NSF and such is we're usually co-PIs, right? Our faculty are on other grants where there's a primary PI at the other institution. So one of our sister programs at Colby is the Davis Institute for AI, where they have a relationship with Brown University on a very large ARIA grant, where we do a lot of work through that. And we are running a program right now on campus called Summer Bridges, where we teach students who have no coding experience the basics of AI. And then Halloran Lab teaches one, how to responsibly buy code, but also entrepreneurship. And the students come out of the summer pitching an event to an actual company with a demo and a prototype. It's on July 30th for anyone who wants to come and be on campus. They're all invited. And then we also partner with organizations like Dirigo Labs on the marine and algae research innovation accelerator. I think I got it right. Where there we're running micro internships through that grant, and do have the opportunity to do internships and fund internships in the blue economy, specifically in the algae space. So that's another way it would work. But more broadly across campus, we're very highly devoted to making our students strong thinkers. And I always like to say that the best thing that we try to instill in our students is to make them really good learners. And innovation and entrepreneurship is a really great way to do that, because you get to flex a lot of different muscles. So the way that we approach this is we run a series of very one-credit classes. So we don't have a business school on campus. We have an economics department, but we don't teach business classes. And so supplementing that in a meaningful way, where we provide credit opportunities for students to ideate on their business ideas, build them to a pitch. We run a couple pitch competitions throughout the year. We're very fortunate to partner with Thomas College and KBCC here and Dirigo Labs on their Back the Napkin Challenge coming up in November. And so the way we structure things is providing, we try to bring in speakers, so we're always looking for companies to talk. If there's any blue economy companies here, we'd love to talk to you. I'm looking to do a panel of founders from blue economy companies to come on campus in the fall as part of Blue Economy Week. And I think this is a really meaningful way to engage our students. And just to give a sense, last spring we did our pitch competition. We had 8 companies on stage. We had 28 companies that applied for grants last year. So we're really trying to build this out, giving students space to innovate, connect them. We're always trying to connect them with mentors. There's actually a couple companies in here I know that have hired interns from Colby. And I think that's always the best part, where we look to partner our students in. And we're always here to help them collaborate and looking for new ways where we can look at different aspects of innovation and entrepreneurship. It's not always the for-profit business, but what do we do for students that maybe want to be deep into the research field, but they want to think about commercialization? As a non-R1 institution in liberal arts, how do we put them on the pathway to think about that? How do you market yourself? How do you do reusable tools that you can then go and help you get a fellowship? That may not sound like starting a business, but it's a business as an individual, in the same way that we think of a solo entrepreneur. And the same goes for nonprofits and creatives. And so we try to be diverse in the way that we talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, so it feels inclusive across our departments. And I would just invite you, if you have a company, I can guarantee you I can find a student with an interest. I'd love to connect. You come be part of our idea and pitch days, be part of the network. So we're always helping students develop their ideas and looking for feedback. Have several Dirigo Labs companies over the summer get contacted by our students as they build out these ideas. And I think that's something very special about this state, is the connection across the ecosystem. And I think that's very unique. And I think it's very appreciative about being here today and to talk to you. And so I'd love to connect more and love to invite you on the campus. The door's always open. And I'll love to hand it back to you, Jeff. Thanks again.
Great. You have invested, or you have helped fund real hardware, including rocket launches with a Maine aerospace company. Tell us about one project where a small seed grant grew into something bigger, and what made that proposal competitive.
So since I've been in Maine, before I was here, I was in California, and the infrastructure was really different. I think people can hear me anyway, but Okay. So before I was in Maine, it was in California in the Bay Area. It was a completely different system. And so when I came here, I was at the University of Southern Maine as a dean, and I worked closely with Maine Health Innovation. And that's where I got to start to see how to make things work in Maine. There's so many folks in Maine that have great ideas, but they really don't have the infrastructure or the ability to get a product or service to market and actually make money off of it. And so I worked a lot down there, and then I stepped into the role of the Maine Space Grant Consortium and become like a universal ally for the state. And that opened a door to me to find out, what are the issues, and then how do we to build something small and something big. So been doing it for 30-something years. Maine Space Grant Consortium has, and they've helped with Qualls, they've helped with Blue Ship, they've helped with a number of the companies around here. But I think what I like to see now is some of the merging thing that we have of a pipeline where we've got a smaller seed grant, maybe 5 to 20K, and then that goes right into the EPSCoR, which is almost $1 million. And so that's really, I think, the sweet spot that I've got here in Maine right now is that we've got the staggered, you start with a little grant, you get a bigger, and a big. And so the last one I was talking about with the Roux Institute, they've done a seed grant first. So they did a smaller seed. Andrew Mills, which is phenomenal, a researcher at the Roux Institute, he started with a smaller grant, and they got and then it was successful, and then he used that to get the bigger one. And now he has partnerships across Maine with industry.
Thank you. Janet, you were the founding president of the Maine Technology Institute. You've sat on both sides of this table. What separates the companies that successfully partner with a university or college research institution to win federal funding and those that don't?
That's a good question, and I was thinking about it because I'm 150 years old and I've had a lot of careers. And one of the examples is I was consulting for a time in between startup companies and helping companies write SBIR grants, and I have been successful securing SBIR grants, which I'll answer your question with in a minute. But this one was not successful, and I knew it was not going to be successful. Company was it was an existing company with existing revenue and products, but they wanted to take their technology into a new area, into a biotech area from a different area that they were in. And I have biotech experience. And I went into the CEO's office and I'm like, you guys are not ready to submit this SBIR. You do not have the expertise to show a grant panel. You don't have the expertise to show you know the biotech business, or you know what the real commercialization pathway is going to be for this product, even though you commercialize this product in a different industry. And you guys know some things, but it doesn't look like that on paper. You're not going to be able to show that on the SBIR. And I was right, it was not funded. I got paid for doing it, but I was like, this is not going to get funded. And I think that's a really good example of someone not taking advantage of the resources that are around. One of the things that the university can bring to your proposal is expertise that you're lacking. And whether we're there because we're supporting and we're acting in an advisory role with one of our researchers, one of the PIs, or we're a subcontractor because, and not only just me, but any of the universities that are up here, we're a subcontractor because we have that expertise to provide your company that expertise that you don't have, to show that grant panel that you know what you're missing and that you're able to go out and find what you're missing. And that's one of the best ways to use the university or academic partner in order to have a much more competitive SBIR, CTR proposal. And we at Maine are involved in quite a lot of those as a subcontractor.
Excellent. Michaela, back over to you. As Director of Research and Partnerships at Roux, what makes a good industry research partner for the Roux? And what does a first engagement usually look like? Do they come in through your incubator classes or through sponsored research, student teams?
Yeah. Great. We have a lot of different pathways that a for-profit company industry can sort of enter into in order to engage with the Roux Institute and, of course, broader Northeastern University. In terms of sort of like what a good industry partner looks like for something like an SBIR or STTR, I would certainly echo what Janet was saying around like having, in order to kind of like get to that next level of commercialization, having enough of a data and expertise and being willing to bring in a potential research partner in order to strengthen that proposal, but really seeing yourselves as the ones that are in the lead on that, I think is important, and we're absolutely there to support and kind of help think through different ways that you might attack a research component of an SBIR or STTR proposal. So I think that's one thing, but even just if it's really just about like getting connected to lots of other kinds of resources, like the program I mentioned where we have companies work during a semester during a class with students. We call it the Experiential Network XN program. But that's one way that sometimes we end up like starting a relationship that's not really a research project, but it's something where the company starts to see what our students can do and what our teaching faculty can do and start to get integrated into kind of the ecosystem that we're trying to build at the Roux Institute, and then that company might end up, joining an entrepreneurship program that we have and getting a little bit of funding that then we can connect them back to students to help them on to like gather some data for, as part of that small amount of funding that then leads to being able to be ready to apply to something like an SBIR or STTR. So I guess my whole point is that we're relatively new at the Roux Institute. We're 6 years old, so we're very open to trying to have conversations and figure out what the right entry point might be for a company, and it can vary, and there's a lot of opportunity there. And so I would say, take my business card if you have something that you're interested in connecting about, and I'm happy to kind of be the concierge and direct you to the right groups within what we're trying to build. So
great. Dr. Herschbach, you touched on this a little bit in the last question, so I want to drill a little bit more into specificity. Your Maine Innovation Challenge and Visiting Innovators series bring outside founders in. And how can a company here actually use UNE? But I want to be more specific because in terms of Maine's growing blue economy, wet labs are a critical resource for startups in that space. Can you give me examples or ways that a startup in aquaculture or added value to seaweed or kelp and so forth can partner with UNE to have access to those critical wet labs for their testing and growth?
I'll try. That's a great question. So I might just mention also that we are a year old, not quite, and so we are very much in the experimental phase as well, and trying to do and have admired very much what the Roux is doing, and have kind of tried to maybe identify ways that we could partner with them or create some complementary opportunities. But we're very much focused on student learning and leveraging the very significant talents of our faculty and thinking about how to make these partnerships the most meaningful for both companies and for students. So specific examples of, I'd say, our campus it's not just the wet labs, it's not just what's in the buildings, it's that we're on the coast. And so we have one of our most distinctive and amazing research facilities is Ram Island, which is this island off the coast, and a whole series of seaweed farms. We grow dulse, we grow sugar kelp, we grow a whole variety of seaweed in between our campus and that island. And so that has been our kind of building out of the commercial aspect, not just the research aspect of working with seaweed and the connecting into the aquaculture ecosystem and economy is probably the example that I would point to. So for instance, we had there was a business, a couple of innovators who started a business they called the Sea Nutrition Bar, which is a kelp-based nutrition bar. It was based in the Fork and Food Lab at Portland, and for various reasons they were challenged. The main reason being they were very challenged with scaling up, primarily because they had to spend a huge amount of money on the kelp itself. The price of kelp went up at such an incredible rate that when their margins became negative. So they knew one of our faculty at UNE. They reached out to her at a conference, and she, together with others, negotiated to have that company come to UNE. It was actually gifted to UNE, and now it has turned into a student-based team innovation project that has led to us building a commercial kitchen, having our seaweed farms recertified as commercial as well as research farms. And the students have created a new product. They've built a business, and it's a multidisciplinary experience that involves students from the College of Business, from marine sciences, etc. Also, my colleague Scott just pointed out, the project relies heavily on the use of our research vessels, which are distinctive resources. Again, not wet labs, but having access to, in this case, 3 research vessels. If you're a small business working in that field, is very valuable. So we built that business out, and they've been able to remain in touch with the original founders who've acted as advisors. But that business is now poised for a kind of success that it couldn't achieve previously, because we can provide them with the most expensive ingredient that basically destroyed their margins. That's just one example. There's another company that's actually one of the Roux Climate Tech founders right now, Coastal Measures, who's working closely with a UNE faculty member around that jetty spur project that I mentioned. And that company has been able, through that work, to develop relationships with the Army Corps of Engineers, with ports across New England, and so on, to develop a market for his AI-enabled dashboard in a way that he wouldn't have been able to otherwise, I think. So there's a couple of examples. They're not specific to wet labs, although there is a lot that goes on in our wet labs, and our recirculating aquaculture system is one where, for example, we've taken over the business from American and Maudie eels, and they are continuing to grow eels as both a research and a food source there. So that's a few examples there.
Excellent. The ocean as the wet lab. Yeah.
Yeah, the entire oceans.
Yes. Pardon, go ahead.
Also forgetting that another tertiary benefit that you guys get is the .gov/.edu domains when you represent or link to those business owners. That helps them rank in SEO heavily and instantly. So it helps them rank above their competition as well. So that zero moment of truth, you're actually massive benefit just on that marketing ability.
Great point. Yeah, reputationally, I think it makes a big difference for small businesses to be able to point to these public-private relationships that they're building, and so that it benefits. It's a reciprocally beneficial relationship.
You can't buy it, but it's worth anything else that you guys
Yeah, good point.
And John, the Haller Lab has quickly become established and started traditions like the Founders Forum. And I'm curious what you're seeing year over year, not that we've seen some patterns at Colby, what you're seeing from student founders right now, and what can people in this room get involved, whether it's, we know we'll all be there at the end of the month at the pitch competition, but what are you seeing coming out of Colby and the minds of these students?
I see diverse in funding a lot. And I think, when the lab first opened, I would say the majority of the pitches were very software focused. And I think the reality is now, it's very easy to do an MVP of a software product. You can type a prompt into a window and you have a software product with pretty minimal effort. And now the challenge then becomes is there's an increased bar on that software level. But what we've seen as we try to diversify and you can talk about some of the pathways language I talked about, the civic innovator, the creative. We've seen new students come to the lab. So we actually had a student, I guess it would be about a year and a half ago, go to New York Fashion Week for his fashion brand. Our pitch winner this year was an acrylic nails business, where she's trying to create a hub of people that can design acrylic nails and sell them out on the internet. And amazing storyteller. Fashion brands. We had a student this past spring who developed a synesthesia test, which she's a typical researcher, and now she's been building that product over the summer. And so we're seeing an increase in diversity. I think we're seeing things move a lot. I would also say early on there was a lot of how do I fix a college campus problem? Right? And through exposure to new problem sets and new things on campus and really thinking about that, I think you see students coming with more and more different ideas. I think there's a lot of anxiety in our students right now. I think it's probably the untold thing that we're not always talking about is that I can't tell you the number of students that I know that have 2 and sometimes 3 internships this summer because they're worried if they don't do that, they're not going to get a job later on. And I think, they are thinking about skills, and I think it's the way that we think about when you do entrepreneurship. You're giving them the opportunity to practice a lot of different muscles that they may not get to prepare for the workforce. And so I find that very exciting. I will say, the students are concerned about privacy. They're concerned about hiring practices. They're concerned about volunteer management. There's a lot of different ways in which this comes out, and so. I think that the challenge for us is, I think that the challenge I have for the new year when I'm talking about the blue economy is sometimes it's difficult for us in things that are maybe more material science-based, more consumer package-based, to help those students on campus. And so we have our new Bean Center coming in next fall, which will be a really great makerspace to do that. So I'm super excited. And actually one of our students that won our sort of smaller scale pitch in the spring, she was pitching a Parmesan protein bar, which I'm really keen to try out when she does her first version. Interesting, right? Yeah, either people love the idea or hate it. I have that's seems to. I'll tell you what, she's a phenomenal storyteller. But yeah, that's the kind of diversity that we're seeing, and I think it's the thing we're trying to cultivate. We're trying to look for ways where we can do innovation days, bring in new problem sets. Colby now is doing a lot of work down in Fort Clyde on resiliency and what kind of economic opportunity and activity can we spur, and trying to bring some of that problem set into the way we do our innovation days so our students can engage in local problems. And even last year, our back of the napkin was the Dirigo Labs was running was all about solutions that would help Maine and help people in the local community. And so there's a strong desire in that space, and I think you see students wanting to go in a much more diverse way. I think that's only going to continue. And what I would say is that, give the students a chance at any one of our universities. They are extremely bright and talented, but they're entering a job market where a lot of them are anxious. And they could use some encouragement and support, and they're more than willing to come help you with your business.
Well, thank you so much. This is the time we allotted for our panel, so please let's applause Nancy Rona, Dr. Jeremy Qualls, John Godbout, Michaela Monahan, and Dr. Lisa Herschbach. Thank you.